Hey guys, and happy Saturday. I am going to do a Twitter space at the same time. I tried to do that during my interview with Dr. Metzger. I think it was 2 days ago now, and couldn't get it to work. So we're going to try to do Twitter space at the same time as this live stream here on YouTube and Twitch. But I basically wanted to go over the conversation between Ashley Vance and Elon Musk. We had some sort of new updates, some things that were not so new, but I want to try to incorporate both. So let me turn the mic off and get going on the Twitter space as well. And if you guys are listening this morning, let me know where you're listening from. Hey everyone. So I just figured I would do a Twitter space as well as the YouTube live stream. So first of all, good morning to you, or afternoon, wherever you are. Maybe it's even evening. But looked like, there were at least 20,000 people listening to that chat with Elon and Ashley, and we're glad that we were able to get that to work. There were some connectivity issues. Pierce is listening in from Kansas City. And so I took some notes. I've been doing this recently. Every time Elon gives a chat or a space, I take some notes, and then I want to follow up and recap. So if you didn't get to listen to it, or didn't stick around for all of the the attempts at reconnecting, I'll give you some of the highlights from that conversation. And I did invite a couple people to speak, so hopefully they join. But yeah, so we have some folks, Stephanie from Australia, Douglas from Toronto. Well, first of all, it was interesting because this was supposed to be a chat about commercial space. And the first question that Elon was asked about is the upcoming potential fight between him and Mark Zuckerberg. So I did take some notes on that. And Elon does say, if this does happen, I will train. I spend my time according to what is needed, and I don't usually have to fight people. So he doesn't have a lot of training under his belt. But Vance said Zuck takes this stuff pretty seriously. This could go badly. And Elon says, yes, this is possible, but he thinks it actually might happen. So I know that there's been some confusion with some of the comments that his mom has made on Twitter with the fight being off. Is it still on? It sounds like Elon's very serious about this, but I will admit, I think that this kind of set the tone for a little bit of a tense conversation between Elon and Ashley there. But we did get a little bit of conversation about Starship. We know that Elon has been wanting to do a Starship update, and he's actually postponed it 3 times now. So there was connectivity issues the second time. The first time, I'm not exactly sure what the reason is, but unclear if he's still going to do one today. After that conversation, I think it's unlikely. I want to know what you guys think. Yeah, so the conversation, Ashley Vance, of course, releasing another book about Elon pretty soon here. And let me see if I can just keep up with all these chats. Wow, we have people from all over the place listening in. So that is awesome. So of course, we talked about the progress of Starlink. Ashley Vance asked Elon, did you think that, where we are right now with SpaceX and Starlink was possible? Elon said, I didn't think it was impossible. We've made more progress now on the satellite front than he would have expected by now, which is good news. But he does admit they have made a little less progress on the Mars front because, of course, Starships are needed, and that is still in development. But we are looking forward to a second orbital test flight here pretty soon. He says space today is vastly more interesting than 5 years ago, which I think we can all agree to that statement. And so Ashley asked Elon, what are the most dramatic changes leading to the exponential increase that we're seeing in commercial space activity? And Elon says, people think sometimes if you just apply money to a problem, you can solve it, but that's just not true. So Falcon 9, for example, has helped create a lot of small satellite companies that have been able to create business because the cost of transport is so much lower. So, of course, once you enable low-cost transport, you also create an opportunity for companies to create businesses because it's no longer prohibitively expensive to get to orbit. And I will say I've chatted with a couple of friends after this conversation Some of you guys were very underwhelmed because, a lot of this is topics and questions that Elon has already been asked. So not a lot of new information to glean from the interview. However, we did have a great quote, and I'll get to that a little later in the notes here, but I will be making a shirt, never stop thrusting. Elon said, that's a quote, make a shirt out of that. So I'm going to follow his orders and make a shirt because before I broke my leg, hip thrusting is one of my favorite exercises. And so I have some ideas for how to make that a bit creative there. I want to see if we have, let's see. Nope, not quite on yet. So let's keep going with the notes. Of course, and I think we've heard Elon say this many times, getting to space is easy, getting to orbit is hard. They talked about the space station a little bit, how that's somewhat of a misnomer because it's anything but stationary. And Ashley talked about, okay, well, we're up to 10,000 low Earth orbit satellites. He's curious where Elon thinks this will end up in 10 to 15 years. And Elon says the actual question to ask is the tonnage of a satellite. The way to think about any satellite constellation is how much does it weigh and what is the useful throughput or bits of information per ton. So from a tonnage standpoint, he says it's going to be quite high for low Earth orbit, perhaps on the order of 40 to 50,000 tons. He reiterated that this is speculation. Of course, this is a big number or amount of tonnage for orbit, but small for anything terrestrial. But he says if you're going to do heavy duty communications, which is what we want with Starlink, you actually need a minimum amount of power for that, which therefore translates to an area of solar panels. And since it's low Earth orbit, you need batteries when you're in Earth's shadow. And let me tell you guys, I was just typing away trying to take these quotes. So I may skip over a little bit of the conversation, but I can only type so fast. I often wonder how, when they're transcribing a TV show, how they're able to do that so quickly. The thing is, you can do like a voice memo or, voice to text, but it's not always accurate on your phone. And sometimes it's a little bit laggy. So I just opted to type it myself. Interesting. So Harry says Elon was a little mean. I think he was at a friend's birthday party, was already making time for this. And the Ashley interviewing him seemed a little bit off topic and a little bit unprepared. So, are we going to get another space today about Starship? I don't think so. I highly doubt it, but maybe we'll be surprised. I know that we would all love to have that. Apparently you guys are on board with the thrusting t-shirt. That's a great idea. So, I've said in the past, in Musk we trust, in thrust we trust. That could be a good idea. But I think especially I love hip thrusting as an exercise, and so somehow we're gonna combine that and make a great shirt. So let's go back to these notes here. He was asked about the Starlink IPO. I know that is something that I've been wondering about and reporting about or, talking about on my channel since 2021 when I first started talking about Starlink. We've heard that it could be happening in 2 years or so, but Elon said today it would not be legal for me to speculate about the Starlink IPO. We are private, but it's against regulations to talk with any specifics about a future public offering. So that was shut down. Elon was also asked about Russia and the Russian space program. Ashley Vance said, we have seen Russia not always be a rational actor. Russia seems like a wild card to me. Do you have concerns that Russia remains a semi-rational actor in space? Elon said, well, there's a lot going on in Russia right now. We're not their primary concern. So Ashley asked again if this was a concern. And he also changed the subject to, so you have no worries about a debris field or collisions between all of the satellites in low Earth orbit. And Elon says, well, I'm not suggesting that we be cavalier about it. We're actually extremely professionist about satellite positions. it is important to have communication to make sure that various countries have coordination in those satellite positions. As long as there's coordination, that is not a difficult problem. So then the topic changed to SpaceX has been running laps around the competition. Ashley asked Elon if he's curious, what do you think the competitive landscape looks like against SpaceX in 10 years? And Elon point blank says, we don't really think about the competition. I mean, we're focused on getting people a good internet connection from space. And he says if the competitors succeed, that's great. And he pointed out that they've launched competitor satellites, OneWeb satellites when Soyuz wasn't an option anymore. So short and sweet, but yeah, don't think about your competition. If you're an athlete, are you focusing on all the other people around you, or are you trying to do your best? So and Ashley kind of reiterated saying, so do you feel like you don't have competition in the sense that you're going to do what you're going to do, or that people can't catch up with SpaceX? Elon said, once again, anyone who spends time thinking about the competition is wasting their mental energy. He says this year, if things go well and we don't have a failure, SpaceX will put approximately 80% of all payload to orbit, which is crazy to think about. Like 80% of all payload to orbit, China only about 10%, and the rest of the world filling in that 8 to 9%. So SpaceX, yeah, I would say it's safe to say they don't have to worry about competition right now. Let's see here. Okay, I'm hoping that we can get a couple people that I think you would be interested in hearing from. So then I was glad that Ashley did bring up Starship. This is something that we've been waiting for, another update, another dedicated space on. So Elon said, yes, there are a tremendous number of changes between the last Starship and the one that they're currently working on, the combination of Ship 25 and Booster 9. He says there's well over 1,000 changes. So he thinks that the probability of the flight getting to orbit is much higher than the last one, maybe 60%. But he says it all depends on how well they do with stage separation. They're going to use hot staging, where they light the engines of the upper stage or ship while the first stage engines are also on, leaving just a few running. Of course, at the same time, they need to start the engines on the ship. Obviously, that results in blasting the booster, so you have to protect the top of the booster from getting incinerated. He says this is something that the Soviets and Russians, speaking again, have used quite a bit. And he says there's a meaningful payload to orbit advantage with hot staging. It's roughly about a 10% improvement in payload to orbit. So you basically never stop thrusting, which is where we got that quote. He even said, hey, that sounds like a quote. So in the words of Elon Musk, never stop thrusting, because the moment the engine stops thrusting, it's engines, you start falling. You don't want to be coasting unless you're already in orbit. And like we said, getting to space is not the problem. Getting to orbit is the hard part. But after that, conversation turned a little sour, because instead of maybe asking more questions about, the technical topic of the hot staging, Ashley asked, well, hey, how much have you spent on Starship? Which Elon has already been asked, I think on one of I think it was the Twitter space, either right before the Starship launch or right after. And he said, they think that they have invested over $2 billion for sure. 2023 might approach $3 billion invested in Starship, but it just seemed like maybe not the right direction to take the conversation. Obviously this can be a CEO's biggest pain point, is how much something costs. He also asked, are there regrets that you had with the first orbital test flight? And Elon's like, yeah, hindsight is 2020. Of course we have regrets. If we knew how things would go, we would have done things differently so that it would have gone right. So he started talking about how the engines on the last rocket were somewhat of a hodgepodge, in his words. Those engines were built and tested over about a year. And then he kind of diverted to saying this conversation is getting too technical, and most of the people in the space don't care, which I think a lot of us would say we do care. I think a lot of us care, but he didn't seem to want to expand on that. And then, a timeline was given. Hey, I only got about 5 more minutes, and that was actually quickly cut off, and the chat was terminated. So it was very interesting, at least sitting here listening to it. I think it was nice to hear him talk about Starship a little bit, because I know we've been wanting that dedicated chat. But and let me read some of the comments here. Sorry, I just wanted to get through the notes, and then hopefully, if someone on Twitter wants to chat with me. Okay, so I invited someone, and they are at the beach with family. So dang it. But looks like some of you guys are enjoying this conversation. I am trying to get Joe Tagmeyer, so let me just text him. Join my space. MySpace. Speaking of MySpace, sorry to go off topic a little bit, but back to that fight. Tom from MySpace is also chiming in about the fight, or the looming fight, between Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. And he's like, hey, you should have me into the mix. And I thought about it. I'm like, what if we had teams of 2, and we had Elon and Joe Rogan and Mark and Lex Friedman? Because Lex Friedman already does jujitsu. Mark has been training for years. So you have like the skilled, people that train for this, but then and Joe Rogan does too. And then Elon is just huge. So we get the walrus. So would be interesting. Yeah. Barney says he repeats the questions that were already answered in the last space. And I think that was one of the frustrating things, is that you're right. Elon was asked a lot of these same questions in the Starship spaces. So I haven't read the Ashley Vance book, and I know that a new one is coming out, and I'm going to block this spam because I don't want spam in my chat. Maybe, let me see if I can get a mod really quickly. But let me go back to my Twitter space. Joe, I'm going to invite you to speak. Please speak with me. Yeah, so I wasn't sure if we were even going to have the space, because there were connectivity issues. I know that yesterday Elon tried to do his own, and he said, hey, I'm going to need to connect to a Starlink here. He's somewhere in Europe. Looks like, hey, Joe, good morning.
Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm good. Thanks for joining. I kind of ran through all of the notes that I furiously typed while I was listening to that. I know that you kind of dipped in and out of the space, but did you glean anything new from that?
Well, I'm not sure what you've already talked about. I just saw your message to join in, but I only listened for the first 3 minutes, and honestly, I wasn't hearing anything new. I thought the questions were kind of just boilerplate type questions. And then later on, I saw a tweet saying that they were talking about a new booster Starship separation mechanism using the hot, basically igniting the engines and using that to help do the separation. So I went back on, and about that time, I think it seemed like Elon was getting pretty annoyed with the host, and it ended pretty quickly after that. So
it got really tense, and I was kind of like, oh my gosh, did he really just hang up? It was, I mean, I guess getting off topic was not a good idea.
Yeah, it seemed to me that Elon was telling him, I don't want to talk about anything other than this space. And also, I'm kind of busy where I'm at right now. So I'm dedicating some time to you kind of graciously. And when he kept asking different questions, I sensed that he was getting really annoyed. So it actually didn't surprise me that he terminated it that
quickly. So Ashley Vance wrote the book, Elon Musk, Tesla, SpaceX, and the Quest for a Fantastic Future. I'll admit I haven't read it, but I think I know enough about Elon and the mission at this point that, I'd be pretty up to speed. He has a new book coming out, When the Heavens Went on Sale. Have you read the original book back in 2015?
Not 15, but I'm holding the new book, When the Heavens Went on Sale. I just got it. I purchased it not too long ago.
Yeah. Okay. See, I was surprised, because he must have spent a lot of time talking to him. I thought that they, maybe would have a better repertoire, but it was, you know, interesting to say the least.
Yeah, to me, and this is just my opinion, and others may have an opinion, it just didn't seem like Ashley read the room very well, didn't really understand Elon's mindset, and didn't seem like he was as prepared as necessary to act on anything. And like I said, the first part of it seemed pretty boilerplate, typical type of questions, and I wasn't learning anything new, so I kind of left the space for a while.
Right. And well, we talked about a little bit because I was on the phone with you before, is, as a reporter or even in your profession, you gotta read the room, right?
Yes. Not only during the meeting or whatever, but also ahead of time. And I think one of the big clues was yesterday when Elon was trying to do the Starship discussion, and he was having a lot of trouble with connections, and he said he was at a party, and it's a multi-day party type of thing. Should have taken that into account for the meeting today.
Yes. Yes. Sorry, I'm just trying to get a mod in my chat because someone is like spamming the heck out of my chat. And Kevin, thank you for the super chat. Oh my gosh, what is going on? I'm trying to to block someone in the chat here. Unwanted spam. All right, report. I need a mod. So if someone wants to be a mod, here, I'm going to designate Pete as a mod, add as moderator. Please help. Help. Yeah, I'm trying to ban this guy. All right, I'm going to make one more mod just in case here. So Joe, while I have you on the call, if that's okay, if we just change topic a little bit, still Elon Musk related, tell us about some Cybertruck news.
Well, I guess the last couple of days has been a very interesting sequence of events because there's been multiple Cybertruck viewings out in California, some with camo, some not with camo. So that was definitely new. We had the reports of a Cybertruck in, I think it's New Zealand, doing winter testing, and there's some video on that. And then a couple of days ago, I was informed, but also I had noticed when I was doing my flight on Wednesday that the casting machine structure that had the windows blocked since about the 13th of January were removed. And a combination of me noticing it and also being told, hey, we removed all of the covers. Might be interesting to take a look. So I went out yesterday earlier in the morning and was in fact able to verify that the window coverings were off and got some images. It was a little unfortunate because it was kind of humid. I noticed on the way up, my window would kind of get moisture on it. And then when I got there, I noticed that the windows in that area, some of them had a lot of moisture on it too. It made it not completely transparent. So the images weren't as clear as I normally would do, but it was the best I could do under that circumstance. So we could see that, the big news is that there's two 9,000-ton gigapresses installed, and they are making hundreds of Cybertruck castings. You could see that in my images of my video.
Wow.
But in addition to that, the entire north section of the casting machine structure, it's divided into three main bays. You have the east, center, and the west bay. Everything from about midpoint, just north of where the four 6,000-ton gigapresses are installed and operating, everything north of that, the entire inside has been changed. They've moved the DMG Mori milling machines. They've excavated another section of the concrete slab on the east bay on the north side next to. I've been showing that through the outside, looking through some of the receiving doors where you could see concrete being removed, dirt in there, rebar forms, that kind of stuff. But what I could see for sure, and it's very interesting, is that entire section on the east bay is being reconfigured with two more foundations would look like they are for more gigapresses at some point in the future. And what's very interesting is there was 2 foundations further south on that east bay originally, but those were dug up and replaced with just regular concrete late last year. So apparently they decided to move that further north on that east bay. Also, people may not know, but between the 4 existing 6,000 ton gigapresses and the 2 new 9,000 gigapresses on the west bay, there's 2 other foundations that can support gigapresses. So if, from what I could see and what I know, based on the 4 6,000 ton plus the 2 9,000 tons, so there's 6 in there right now, there's room for 4 more. So it could be a total of 10. And if that is in fact what they eventually do, that's right now, that's 2 more than what Giga Berlin has. And that is a lot of gigapress capability. So
yeah.
So there's that. The other couple of things that have been happening, it's kind of funny to me. Everybody knows what an Hydra gigapress is and the castings, and they get all excited about those things being in place and seeing castings being made. But one of the things that I keep trying to point out over and over and over again is that's only a portion of what you need to make the Cybertruck. One of the more important things is the stamping machines, which are completely different than gigapresses. They take coils or rolls of steel or aluminum and they stamp them into various parts. In the case of the Model Y, and also with what we're seeing with the Cybertruck, is the basic shell of the passenger cabin area is made of stamped parts that are welded together, and then the castings are bolted to that. And you have to have that to make a Cybertruck. So all of the work on the south end with all of the big stamping presses has been, to me, a very interesting story, but a lot of people keep overlooking that, and they don't think that's nearly as interesting. And what's cool right now is because they're expanding the building on the south end, they're moving all the wall panels off. So now I have some really great shots inside of, there's actually 2 stamping sections. The original one, which is I call it the stamping machine section, that has all the Schuler and the AID presses that have been making the Model Y parts. But then there's now stamping 2 that's being built, and they've been putting AIDA and other stamping machines in there. And now with the walls down, I got some really, really good views of that. So that is another huge story. And then the last part of it is the Cybertruck needs the stainless steel shell made, and you need to have machines to do that. And those are even different than the stamping machines or the casting machines. And I've been documenting a bunch of machinery that's been delivered recently to the factory that is specifically made to do high quality bends on all kinds of metals, specifically stainless steel. And yesterday there was some leaked images of a parts bin with a Cybertruck QR code, and also 4 sections of the stainless steel shell of a door, and they were also on a pallet, and there was an individual kind of, you could see the hand holding or pointing to it, and you get an idea of the thickness of it. It looks like it's probably, it actually looked like to me like it was 4 millimeter stainless steel 304L, but it's hard to tell for sure, but it was pretty thick stainless steel, and it had been bent into shape. And those external stainless steel panels will be bonded with like an industrial adhesive to the actual stamped frame of the door. So I guess what I'm saying is that you have casting machines, which are really, really exciting, but we also have the stamping machines, and we have the metal bending machines, all now in and working in the factory.
Wow. So we're thinking, we could actually see deliveries this year.
I think so. I think we have to temper what people think of when you say deliveries. Deliveries we're not going to see thousands and thousands of Cybertrucks being delivered this year. But we will start seeing some. And right. What is some? Is it a few dozen? Is it a few hundred? I don't know. But, right. If you consider the Model Y as a template, In August of 2021, the first production suitable Model Ys were being made at Giga Texas, but they didn't really start showing up in any significant numbers until into early 2022. And then the first delivery event was at Cyber Rodeo in April. You would imagine the Cybertruck could be a little bit faster than that, but there was a delay between when they were actually building the cars and then until we started seeing them in some numbers, and then when we saw that delivery event. So,
well, I do want to just give an update. Elon tweeted a little bit ago saying we'll do a more detailed Starship update later this week.
Okay.
So not today. That answers your question you asked me earlier. I did want to touch on this, if you don't mind. You and I went out recently and we made videos about the Boring Company and the Starlink facility out there in Bastrop County. And we've also been down to Starbase together. And you were pointing out some of the differences, not only in the aesthetic design, but some of the construction design between Starbase and Starlink facility and just across, the Musk industries. So do you mind expanding on that a little bit?
Well, we talked about a lot of stuff, so I'm not sure specifically. Are you talking about the architectural design that's used on the buildings?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Well, it seems like SpaceX in general, especially with all of their newer facilities that they're building, whether it's at Roberts Road, the Star Factory there, what we will probably see at Starbase and what we see with the Starlink facility up at Bastrop is that they're all essentially white boxed structures with a kind of a decorative black band around at least half of the building, and then it comes up into kind of like a triangular corner, which is sort of the main entrance, and the glass is all dark as well. So it gives you this look of a white building with black bands at the bottom of the building, and then coming up to a triangular focal point on a corner of the structure. And since I've seen that now on 3 different facilities, or at least the renders for it, and a few other renders that I've seen, I would say that we're seeing a consistent architectural theme that SpaceX is adopting.
Right. I do have a question for you from a viewer, if it's something
Sure.
you can answer. Tank Watcher Vince.
I'll try.
Tank Watcher Vince wants to know, do they use progressive stamping dies?
Progressive stamping dies. Do you mean where they will stamp out a certain point or a section of it, and then the die will come down and stamp again, and then it will make more of the shape? I'm not sure if that's what they mean or not, but or if they mean that you have a system where you have one die that stamps and it makes part of the design, and then maybe another one that cuts and trims excess, and then it goes to the next station, and then another die hits it and it puts more of the form into it. That may be what they're talking about. And if that's the case, yes, they have they put the roll of steel in one side, and it goes through a series of different dies and trimming operations, and at the end the final piece comes out.
Not sure what he means, but sorry, I'm being completely spammed in the chat. I have never had this many spam messages, and I'm not exactly sure how to fix it. So sorry, guys, that is happening. Joe, you were saying you don't really do a lot of live streams on YouTube, right? Still?
No, I don't.
Well,
it's kind of hard to do it with a drone.
yeah, it's true. But I think if we do go back to Starbase and collaborate, would you be open to trying on your channel?
We could try. It is in the middle of Bastrop County, in the middle of farmland, so I don't know how good the signal will be, but we can try.
Oh, I'm talking about down at Starbase.
Oh, it's Starbase.
Starbase, yes.
We can try, but the same actual thing applies. You know that well. Depending on where you are at the Starbase, you might get a good signal or you might not.
Yes, this is true. as soon as we have portable Starlink, we'll be doing a lot better. Well, I still don't know how to make this subscriber only, so sorry about that on the chat at least. But yeah, so I guess we can look forward to a Starship update later in the week, which I'm very much looking forward to that. As we're talking about a lot of the same questions being asked, what is it that you would like to know? Because you were kind of saying some of the more long-term, bigger picture stuff might not be the best thing to ask Elon about right now, as they're still just trying to achieve orbit.
Right. It's I think one that is their focus. They want to get stage 0 fixed. They want to get it tested out. I know they really want to make sure that Ship 25 is ready to go. They want to get Booster 9 tested. They really need to get it moving, and they need to launch, and they need to get data. And I think that really is all that they're focusing on. Anything beyond that, what does the HLS look like? What does the interior look like? Are they going to start testing in orbit refueling, all that stuff, or refueling, retopping, I guess. But all of those things are neat and interesting, but that's way down the road. They want to just get this going. And, I guess a couple of things that I think is interesting that might be closer to what they might be wanting to talk about is one thing that they mentioned that I think was news out of the Spaces today was that basically using a hot fire separation mechanism between the booster and the Starship.
Yes.
And recently down at Starbase, there was an interesting ring segment that had a lot of perforations around the entire ring. Kind of, I think it was either 6 or 8 kind of semicircular cutouts with small holes all the way around, and people were trying to figure out what was that. I think we now have an answer. I think that's going to be on the top of the booster to allow the exhaust to escape during that short period of time where the Starship engines ignite and the separation sequence is happening. So, that would be interesting to find out more about that. What are they doing for the structure for that? If it's truly going to be between the booster and the Starship, what are they doing to make sure it has enough strength to not only support the weight of a fully fueled Starship, but also to have what type of release mechanism they can build into a structure that has that many openings on it. So that would be one of the interesting things. I think another interesting topic would be to talk about the fact that Ship 25 is basically a clone of Ship 24, and it uses the hydraulically operated thrust vector controls, which is something that they're moving away from. Will that give them the data they need for the Starship going forward, or do they not really care and they're really just trying to get it to orbit, see how the heat shields work and that kind of thing? So I think, more details on stuff like that would be kind of in the wheelhouse where SpaceX is kind of looking right now, and it would be interesting to know about.
Right. Are you wanting to watch it from the same place that we were able to watch it?
I would love to. It would be awesome.
Yeah, I think we definitely have to do a take 2 there. Well, this chat is really getting spammed, so I'm not exactly sure why it's getting spammed. But thanks for hopping on, and really that's kind of the update that I have from the chat. It was tense and short-lived, but we're looking forward to an Elon update later in the week.
Yeah. Well, before you go, I guess since you have listeners, does anybody have a voice question or anything so you can bypass the chat, or do you just want to end it now?
Sure. Do you mind sticking around a little bit in case it's a question that perhaps you would answer better?
I'll try. I don't know.
Okay. Well, let's see. Deepak has been patient. So, yeah, how's it going?
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, can we go back to the Starship, Starlink for a second and the potential IPO of it?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a person that's more in tune in the stock in the SEC world of all the industries, and can I make an assumption or a comment instead of a question?
Sure.
Just to let everyone know that's either listening via YouTube or Spaces, what Elon was saying that he legally can't comment indicated to me that there are within 2 years they're going to IPO Starlink, the company, within 2 years.
Yeah, I think that's something.
Because,
yeah, go ahead.
Because I don't know what section of it is, but in order to IPO something, there's two ways you can IPO a company. One way is you can do it through the traditional route, is where you go and do it and file all the paperwork, and that takes at least a year to 2 years. But within that period, you have to censor yourself and representatives of the company, anyone that's in the company, from not talking about it publicly or to anyone for a year until the IPO happens. And even then, you can't speak about anything about the stock for a year afterwards the IPO happened. Or you can go through a VC route where a venture capitalist will IPO your company underneath a LLC that they've created, and then you can talk about it. That's how FTX, all these other crypto companies, and Robinhood were able to IPO, and the CEO was able to talk about it while it was being IPO'd. Where Elon is doing it is the right way, where investors are going to go in and look at the books, and the SEC is going to look at the books and see what the revenue is and what the whole issue, the books are, and then they can talk about the stock. I think 3 years afterwards, Elon could talk about the stock personally and his representatives. So that indicated to me that maybe late next year, we'll be seeing some public filings of initial public offerings. Maybe fourth quarter of next year, we'll see some indications of IPO for Starlink and what the potential offering price would be.
Yeah. Cool. Well, I know that we're all interested. So yeah, maybe that's a sign that it's getting close.
Yeah, because before he was like indicating and like laughing, not laughing about it, but almost like jokingly saying, "Hey, it may happen," but when he says he legally can't speak about anything, that means that it's very close.
This is the first time. This is the first time I've heard him say that. So you could be right. You could be right.
Yeah, I just know it because I look at the SEC's books and filing regulations like a hawk, because I'm more into the business side of Elon than I like the technical side, but the business side seems more interesting than anything to me.
Well, good for you, because didn't you tell me you're still in high school?
Yeah, I know a lot about stocks and a lot about regulations when it comes to that stuff.
Dude, you're ahead of the game.
I know that's going to happen within 1 to 2 years, because I know that you're legally not allowed to talk about anything about your company, alone tweet about it, or
right.
talk, like for about I think the minimum is a year, but
well,
I think with Elon they're going to do 2 years. I think they're going to enforce the 2 year mark.
And I know one of the other things that we can look forward to, and this is something I've known about for many months, but they are working on a mobile, portable, like tiny Starlink. So something that's rechargeable, something that's about the size of an iPad. So I know that a lot of us would have many uses for such a Starlink. So that's something that
maybe they're waiting for the IPO and launch that version instead.
I don't think so. I heard it will probably be around August. So we'll see if that holds.
Launching this one first so that they can build revenue. So when they do the IPO, they have some public product that they can sell instead of having, let's say, an industrial product for houses or RVs or airplanes and cruise ships.
Yeah.
Maybe this will be like maybe this would be like their, not Tesla car, but like the car is for the company, you know?
Right.
So that they have something to report on their public quarterly reports.
Right. Well, cool.
Like Apple has the iPhone.
Yeah, awesome.
Well, and that's their indication of what their public valuation would be.
Right. Cool. Well, thank you for the input. Yeah, so thank you guys for joining. That's about all that I have. Someone says, does Elon sleep on the chat? I don't know, man. Probably not a lot. He says he doesn't sleep a lot, and that traveling must be exhausting, but thank you guys for joining. I'm looking forward to the Starship space later in the week. Hopefully it is technical. I think that we all actually appreciate that. And hopefully we can convince Elon that we do, because he seems to think that not a lot of people have interest in that side of it. And I know that, a lot of us in the space community want to hear about, the details of that. So hopefully you guys are having a great weekend. I'm going to hop off now, but thank you for listening, and have a great weekend. Okay, so I've ended it's actually really stressful to run the Twitter space and the YouTube at the same time. So something that I'm still experimenting with. I'm trying to get better. But this is weird, guys. I'm still on YouTube. I have never had this many spam messages. It's actually really annoying. So I don't know who this person is, but I guess I shouldn't give them any any attention. I'm not exactly sure how to stop them. Someone said put this in subscriber mode. So on the chat, community moderation, is that what we do here? Let's see. Channel. I'm just trying to fix this because this is ridiculous. I hope that this is not going to be an issue, because this is so this person has a lot of accounts. Frustrating. I hope this isn't an issue. I have many mods, and for some reason this is still happening. So maybe someone can consult with me afterwards that we don't have this issue, but I'm not exactly sure how to fix it at this time. Slow mode. I'm not sure how to put that on where I am in the chat. So anyway, should ignore him, but I don't want this to be a problem moving forward. So Web Developer Ninja says, is Ellie an engineer? No, I am not. I am a TV news reporter, have almost 10 years of experience, and turned into a space journalist. So I interview engineers, I interview the experts. I am not an engineer, and that's okay. There's plenty of channels that they have an engineering background. And what I try to do is bring you several different experts and kind of give you a more easily understandable, easy to digest information and education about these topics. So it's funny. Honorary SpaceX Tesla engineer. Well, not quite, but I appreciate that. At least I can hopefully keep up with the conversation. Top-notch journalism. I appreciate that. So yes, and I wanted to thank some of the people that super chatted. James, thank you for the super chat and listening in. Alan for the super sticker. I appreciate you guys all joining in. It's been a little bit of a rocky live stream. And Elon had his own kind of tense, rocky conversation there. But I really am going to get to working on a shirt. So many of you guys loved my Starship 420 shirt that I made for the inaugural launch there. But I do want to make a shirt about never stop thrusting, because I love to do hip thrusts. So that's what it makes me think of. But really with launching, we can make something creative. And I think that, with kind of the obviously sexual innuendo, it's funny. So, and he said we could quote him on it. So, true statement, never stop thrusting. Kind of ties into his, quest to make more babies. So I don't know. You can look at several different ways, but I'm glad you guys say that I did great with the YouTube space and Twitch. You guys, I made affiliate on Twitch in about a week, so that's something very exciting. I'm wanting to stream more on there because it's fun to just kind of hang out and not have to have really much planned and just kind of get to know you guys more on a personal level. So so thank you guys for watching. I'm hearing dope hat. Ellie brings the best hat. Yeah, I'm actually, I wanted to go over, I did 2 open mics the other night. So on my Twitch, I think I'm going to review the minute that I'm working on to get on to Kill Tony. So if you're interested in watching the open mic that I did here, I'm not promising it's the greatest thing in the world, but I did get some laughs. And so I'm trying to get a solid minute to go on to Kill Tony with. So if that's something that you want to hang out with and give me some feedback with, I will take it. So I'm probably going to do that a little bit later today. Let's see. I want to make one more person. I'm going to make Michael Maxey a mod, managing moderator, save. Okay, so I have several mods now. You guys have an idea, a graphic of Ellie in space with her hat, riding Starship like a Bronco in a rodeo, but in space. That could work. That could work. I think what might be kind of cool right now, because Elon is like, in this training mode, is to maybe somehow have me and Elon with like a hip thrust, but also a rocket thrust. Hip thrust is where like you lay your back on a bench and you kind of put a barbell with a pad on your hips and you load the barbell and it's a thrusting motion. It's a thrusting motion. It's really good for the glutes. Star Force One, actually, this is a good question here. How are you finding the new Model 3? So I'm not actually driving my car yet, but for good reason. It's getting completely tricked out right now. I'm getting a wrap sponsored by Matt Home and Home Team Real Estate. I'm getting the windows tinted by All Set. Window tinting is a must here in Texas. It gets really hot, so we're going to keep that car as cool as we can and keep the interior as safe from damage. So currently it is in the shop. I literally drove it across the street because that's where I'm getting it wrapped. So haven't even put a mile on it. People are asking how my car is, and Mitch wants to know, when is the wrap going to be done? Good question. We're waiting for the material. It should come in a couple days, and patience, young Padawan. I have to be patient. I think that it's well worth it. It's going to be something I'm already very proud of, but it's going to be really cool. So just I'm excited. I will of course do a live stream. I'm actually thinking of making my kind of, oh my gosh, my cat, stop it. Stop it. He's just like, yeah, I want to get in there. I'm thinking of making an episode when I pick up my car, kind of like Pimp My Ride, but Pimp My Tesla. Pimp My Ride was such a fun show. So we'll see. It could be fun. But that's in the next couple of days. We have to be patient. So anyway, I'm excited to share that with you guys. Yeah, Squeal says, I would love a Tesla, but they're not really available here in South Africa. Interesting, because Elon is from there, and that's too bad. Maybe eventually. I was talking to a friend here who's from, I guess it's like, they're like kids right now. They're banging at the door. Do I let them in and reward this behavior, or do I just ignore them? I don't know what to do right now. Yeah, cats and spammers, a challenging day. Oh my gosh, it's been crazy. Some of you guys want to see him. No, my cat is not named. I'm not even going to say that spammy name. What was I saying? Something about the Model 3. Yeah. Oh, my friend from Singapore, she's like, your Model 3 would cost double to drive it around in Singapore from what you paid here. So we're lucky here. It's still an expensive car, but it could be worse. If you're going to do some stand-up comedy, video it, might be some content. Yeah, so Mitch, the goal is to get on to Kill Tony. That is definitely going to be videoed. It is a very widely watched live comedy show. One of the most listened to podcasts in the world. I think they have over 500,000 YouTube followers, but it sounds like they have even more that tune into the podcast. Definitely videoed. The whole idea is that you sign up and it is a random bucket draw. If you get picked, only about 8 to 9 people get picked every show. I know people that drive from all over the state. They're traveling to try and get on the show. They've staked it out many times. One of the guys that I'm now friends with, this is like his 17th time trying to get on. So it is random, but you do a minute of stand-up comedy, which is good because it means if you're bombing, at least it's short. And then, but it's kind of rough because it's hard to establish a good connection and make people laugh in a minute. And then after that, the comedians interview you, roast you. But of course, I want to talk about Ellie in space. So we're going to do it for the brand. And sometimes I think I'm funny. So it should be interesting. But yes, it will definitely be documented, even if I don't want you to see it. If I get on, you're going to see it. Even if it sucked, even if it's a terrible experience, it'll be on the internet. So that's a risk I'm willing to take. Space related comedy. Actually, the set that I'm working on is about breaking my femur and jokes about that. So usually if I do comedy, I like to make it based on true stories from my life and a little bit of self-deprecating humor. But thrust jokes aren't a bad idea. Maybe I should work a couple different sets. Star Force One says, how did you get interested in stand-up? That's a good question. I think I just started watching it kind of around the pandemic is when I really started watching more of it because, locked in, not much to do. And Salt Lake City, Utah, when I was living there as a reporter, they have a very well-known comedy club called Wise Guys. And I thought, you know what? I'm kind of a YOLO person. I like to push myself out of my comfort zone. I've sang karaoke, I've done speeches, I've gone live on TV, right? But stand-up comedy sounds like really intense. So I wanted to kind of just prove to myself that I could do it as more of a bucket list thing. And now it's kind of like, this is fun. Ellie ditched the cousin joke. That was my stuff. I haven't ditched it completely. That's still something that I might go to. The thing is, like, if I'm really going to be doing this stuff, I need to have at least a couple minutes worth of comedy. So people, comedians change subject all the time. All the time. I feel like there's two types of comedians. There's the ones that like yell and they get like really loud. And then there's the other ones that kind of mumble and they seem like they're like drunk or like tired or something. It's like there's never in between. But I don't yell. I think I go for the more mellow approach. Yeah. Zap fan says, I'd say break a leg, but that seems wrong. So don't do it again. You guys, I don't want to speak too soon. But are the bots gone? Are the bots gone? Are the spam bots gone? Sounds like you guys are interested in the stand-up comedy. Well, that's actually what I ended my set with. I talked about the broken leg and some various sexual jokes. I'm not going to say them on YouTube. But at the end, I was like, so did I break a leg up here? Haha. I'm going to say that at the end of Kill Tony. Did I break a leg on Kill Tony? Haha. Corny. It's so bad. Yes, looks like the bots are gone. So that's good. So yeah, that will be fun. I think I'm going to go work out right now. And then later on, I'll probably do some Twitch and some filming for other YouTube videos. But I'm kind of bummed because I was hoping that we were going to get, a dedicated Starship update. We got a little bit of information, but man, that was like grab the popcorn because I did not expect him to be like, okay, you have 5 minutes. Ashley asks him about, how much he's invested in Starship. And then he's like, you have 2 minutes. And then Ashley went off topic. He's like, so how's your AI company doing? And Elon's like, this is supposed to be about commercial space. The call is terminated. Goodbye. You are the weakest link. Goodbye. It's kind of what it felt like. Yes, great work, moderators. This is great. Now I have a ton of mods on the channel. So yeah, Elon, he did not sound happy, but hopefully Starship chat will go better. And yeah, I don't know. I hope that if I ever get the chance to interview Elon, it does not go like that. Sorry to say, I feel bad saying that, but that was rough. Very rough. Yeah. Oh, interesting. Yeah, Elon walked out during the initial Starship announcement because the questions he was getting. I mean, he does have to get back to work at a certain point, so um yeah. How to never get an Elon interview 101. Yeah, it's rough. I just think it's crazy because he's like written books about him. You would think that they would have like more of a solid relationship or like kind of that they could joke with each other, but it was awkward. Awkward. But I don't know. We're all human, man. I mean, I feel bad for him. His day probably is ruined now. So anyway, that's all I have for now, but I will be back later and I hope that you guys are having a good weekend. Awesome.